Hello. So this is a kind of a follow-up on my motorized bike that I built back in 2017. That playlist has a lot of views. Honestly, it's 90 some percent of all my views. So that's what people are interested in. So I just wanted to do a follow-up because I never really gave you guys any information after the first run. So I'm just kind of gonna go through each of the videos and tell you which mods were worth it and which of them are just kind of a waste of time or money and you'd be better off without. So, um, let's see. Oh, I should say, I did run the bike probably, I don't know, maybe 10 hours after I built it, and then like 4 to 6 weeks later, I sold it. So this is just kind of based on that initial period and whether I've felt the difference. Granted, it won't be necessarily a specific mod that I would be able to pinpoint because I kind of did them all at once, but this is just kind of my general opinion on them. So, starting off, episode 2 was porting and polishing. So, let's see here. So, in that video, I used a Dremel with a little sanding drum to make the intake port larger, and then I think I used some polishing compound afterwards. So overall, this is a supporting mod for if you have a aftermarket intake and carburetor. So if you don't plan on upgrading the carburetor or the intake manifold, this mod really isn't going to get you anything. Next, the HD stud kit. I don't remember how much it was, but it was definitely a waste of money because all it did was switch out like the Phillips head and regular hex head bolts and screws for just Allen heads, and I hate Allen heads. They always strip out and they're crap. So I mean, I don't know. Everybody talks them up on the forums, but and it didn't even have all the hardware. There was I can't remember one of the side covers. Like I still had to use the original stuff. So who cares? I mean, use the hardware that's on there. It's probably gonna break before you have to deal with that anyway. Because I mean, let's be honest, these aren't the most reliable engines. High compression head. So I wouldn't say from a performance perspective that the high compression head is really necessary. I'd say that would be more a reliability factor, and that's just because it has like twice the cooling fins of your regular motorized bike head. Um, so yeah. Otherwise, I mean, it is quite large. So if you have like clearance issues already, that's going to make it worse. So definitely get some measurements before you buy one. There's a lot of different shapes out there. Next, let's see. Hmm, we got some spark plug gapping. So that's not really a mod. That's just proper setup. Um, I can't remember exactly what the thousandths of an inch was, but check the forums. You're definitely going to want to gap your spark plug because they come in a wide range. The manufacturing is not very specific. I will say though, a cheap performance mod is just swapping over to an NGK plug. You will lose a little bit on the top end, but you really make up a lot of torque on the bottom end. The fastest bike I ever built, of which I built like 10 of these, all I did, I had a bone stock engine and I put an NGK spark plug in and I had a pretty wide gap on it. And then I just cut the end of the muffler off and just ran a straight pipe. And that did wheelies. So, I mean, granted, it topped out by the end of the driveway, but it got up and went pretty quick. So next we have trimming the piston skirt. So this is that window in the intake port. Basically, you're just making sure that the shade on the window essentially goes all the way up. So again, that's a supporting mod to a larger intake manifold and carburetor. And if you are going to stick with the stock carburetor, there is no reason to do this mod. Next, we have the reed valve and the carb installation. Honestly, I think I lost power from this. I don't know if it was because the carburetor was too big or if it was just because it was a cheap reed valve, but in theory, a reed valve is supposed to make a two-stroke engine run better because it's supposed to help with scavenging, and it's also supposed to prevent exhaust gases from going back in the intake, if I remember. But it was crap. When I first built this, before I modified anything and got it set up, like I just built it and took it on a ride, I think it was slower than if I would have had a stock one out of the box. And I'm going to have to blame that on the reed valve. Next, we got a 12-volt generator. So this is an interesting story. I actually had one of the subscribers reach out to me in an email on this. Honestly, I would recommend not doing any generator run lights. There's a few places on the internet that'll tell you how it really works. Basically, 12 volts is the absolute max it'll make at full RPM. And then most of the time you're going to be running around 6. So they recommend running 6-volt bulbs and then not revving it up. But who is going to ride this and not rev it up? So I think it's kind of stupid. I would just run like regular bicycle lights that you recharge yourself with like USB or something. Next, we got motor mounting, and that's not really a mod. Basically, all I did was move the one stud over and then tap a new hole, so I didn't have to use that little U-bolt. And that just means less vibration, and it gives you a little more room on the top, which I did have clearance issues with that head. Next, we got the CNC sprocket and hub adapter. So this, it really depends on what type of bike you're building and what the diameter of your rear wheel is. A standard 24 or 26 inch, or even if you have a bigger like 27 or 29 inch wheel, you really don't need this because the rag joint one that came with the kit I found is honestly more reliable. It stays together longer without needing to be adjusted. The CNC hub adapter comes into play when you have like an unusual spoke pattern or like a 20-inch or smaller wheel. So when I built BMX to see, it was definitely mandatory because otherwise a few of the bolts always ran into the spokes. So that is what this is beneficial for. Granted, they need to be tightened up really tight. They do slip just like a rag joint, but they don't have the cushion of the rubber to kind of spring it back into place. So I wouldn't really recommend it unless you have a 20-inch wheel or smaller. Also, it's made out of a weaker material. Aluminum is not as strong as the steel that the standard sprockets are made of. Granted, it's more precision, but it's not going to last as long. I had issues with the bolts kind of like making ovals out of the holes from the torque. The bolts that clamped onto the hub, those would always vibrate loose, and I had to like Loctite everything. Just not really ideal, and I think it was rather expensive, honestly. I don't remember exactly how much though. Let's see here. Next, we got an expansion chamber exhaust. Yes, any two-stroke, opening up the exhaust, that's going to be a big thing. Granted, this is going to make your bike louder, so depending on where you live, like me, I live in a town of like 200 people, so as long as I ride in the day, who cares? But I mean, if you live in a city and you got a bunch of neighbors and you have to be at work at like 6 in the morning, they're going to hate your guts if you have loud exhaust. But it definitely does give you a big performance gain. This specific one I had to cut and weld to get it to fit with the angle that I had on my motor. Um, excuse me. There it goes. But you you can get ones that do fit your frame. I just kind of cheaped out. Um, and then I did also end up in the end before I sold it. I did end up putting in a tube in the end and then cross drilling to equalize out the sound. And that did help a lot, but you are going to lose some performance with that. But just a banana pipe like that and then just cut the end off, you're going to pick up a lot of power. Performance CDI, I did not notice anything over the stock CDI that was beneficial. So I don't know if there's a reliability factor. I didn't have it long enough to find out, but over stock, really didn't notice anything. Next, we got throttle and clutch. That just kind of goes with everything. Oh, I did do a thumb throttle on this one from a Tao four-wheeler. You can get them for like, I think at the time it was like 10 or 15 bucks. The reason why I went with a thumb throttle, because if you got handlebars and a twist grip and you pull a wheelie, once the bike starts slipping out from under you, there's no choice for you to put the throttle back, and it just kind of keeps accelerating until you bail or fall on your back. And I, I was hopping some ditches one day and found that out the hard way in 2014. I really didn't want to repeat that. Funny thing, this bike was way slower than that one, even though I stuck way more money into it. So for the average person, twist grip throttle probably that it comes with would be fine. But if you're going to be doing stupid stuff or acrobatics of any sort, a thumb throttle is definitely a good idea. Let's see, we got tachometer, an LED light. Again, with the lights, I just get a regular bicycle light that you can charge with like your computer or your cell phone charger. Tachometer, that didn't work at all. It was designed for 4 strokes and to have a hotter ignition signal, so that did nothing. So don't bother with a tachometer. Also, who cares? I mean, you can feel when it's starting to vibrate apart anyway, so just don't rev it up that high. So next one was LED tail light and battery installation. Again, battery just added too much weight. The wiring was way too complex, and in the end, the charging system didn't really work anyway because of that generator. So just save yourself some time and just get a regular bicycle clip-on light. Then we have just getting the bike road ready in the first run. So I guess that's the end of this video. Hopefully you guys find this helpful, and then you guys can make some decisions on what mods you want to do depending on if you're going to be racing or just commuting or, I don't know, doing jumps or something. Hopefully this will answer those questions. And as far as budget's concerned on like this whole thing that I did, I think if you were to make like a replica bike, I think it would cost you at the time, it would have been like $500, not including the frame. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't cheap. I mean, you could have gotten like a Predator kit for that as well, and that would have been way faster. So, if strictly for performance, not a very good bang for buck on all these mods. If all you're looking for is like the cheapest power, just throw in an NGK plug and do the expansion chamber and cut the end off, and that'll give you way more power than all of this combined. As far as reliability, again, that head that has way more surface area is going to be more reliable because it's going to keep that engine cooler. Otherwise, the stock kit, I mean, count on like doing some sort of repair every like 5 to 10 hours of runtime, whether it's like cleaning up the contacts on like the magneto because they got rusty, or tensioning the chain or something. But I mean, it's usually little stuff. But we do have some motorized bike stuff that I'm going to be doing again because it's what you guys want clearly. I have a old scooter motor that I'm going to be using to make into a like DIY e-bike. So look for that. It's going to be something kind of new, but something old again because, going back to motorized bikes, but I want to not just do the same thing over and over again because then it's not as entertaining for me as the creator. But, I've been doing electronic stuff for a long time and I've been doing motorized bike stuff for a long time. So this is just kind of like a happy in between for me and it's something that I want to try out. So those videos will probably be starting to pop up in a couple of weeks, if not a month from now. But until then, I got some other really fun stuff for you guys to check out. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you actually know when my videos are uploaded. And then I also try to do like a midweek teaser too of just some behind the scenes stuff, just to kind of remind you. But other than that, feel free to comment. Let me know what kind of stuff you guys want to see, and I'll see you guys next time.